So, welcome you guys to Discover Las Vegas,
Thank you.
the city's newest podcast.
We're so excited.
Yes, we are very excited to have you here with us. So, for those of you listening for the first time, we'll do some basic introductions. I'll let you guys all kind of introduce yourselves a little bit, but my name is Priscilla Scott. I'm a recreation coordinator with the city of Las Vegas. I currently oversee the Becker Tech um, Center, and we're very excited. This is the first Parks and Rec podcast in the Valley, and some of our first guests here with us today. My co-host today is Miss Jasmine Barrett.
Hello.
That's all you're gonna say?
I'm a recreation leader. I mostly do all the 3D printing, robotics, that kind of stuff.
She's the brains of the
The
operation.
cool stuff.
She
The
does
cool
all the
stuff,
cool
yeah.
stuff.
She's
She's-
the nerd of the rec department.
Yeah, Priscilla's right there with me though.
I am right there. I know all the facts. She knows all the doing.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we're a good match. And today we've got some of our A1 premier park professionals with us.
At least one of them.
Yeah, at least one of them. We'll start with Pat. Introduce yourself.
So I'm Patrick Vaughn. I'm superintendent of parks here at City of Las Vegas. Excited to be here. Thanks for inviting us. Yeah, we're happy to help out and hopefully share a little bit about what we do.
Okay. How long have you been with the parks team?
So here a little over 10 years. Been with the city about a little over 11 and a half.
Okay.
But in parks and grounds for just over 10.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Where in your previous life?
Previous life. So, I mean, I got started in landscaping at a young age. I had family member that had a company that from the time I was old enough to pull weeds, he'd pay me like $2 an hour to come, help him out. He was kind of helping me out, I think, more than anything. But then went to work for City of Henderson. That was where I kind of cut my teeth in parks and grounds maintenance. In '98, worked there for close to 8 years. Kind of spread my wings and did some other stuff for a little while. Dabbled in commercial real estate and had some businesses and then just kind of got drawn back, into it was tough times, like during the recession was kind of when I made the move. So timing wasn't perfect, but you step away sometimes and, the heart grows fonder and you're like, hey, man, I kind of miss that. So had an opportunity here with the city of Las Vegas. I started in economic and urban development with neighborhood stabilization program and was kind of looking to get back into parks. And an opportunity came up and I was fortunate enough and blessed to get in with this team as a supervisor and here I am. So it's been great.
Awesome. The city of Henderson, we have like a silent love / rivalry because so we do a lot with them through NRPS and NRPA, and they're so close to us. And I always reach out to them and I'm like, okay, how are you guys doing this? So we share a lot of practices.
Yeah.
And we've got some close teams and relationships and stuff with them. So that's pretty cool that you jumped from there to here.
Yeah, they're a solid organization. They've been, I think, 2-time NRPA gold medal winners.
Mm-hmm. They
s-
were finalists last year. I'm not sure. I didn't check to see if they were finalists this year, but
Good people out there. Good team, definitely,
yeah, they're always willing to help. So that's pretty cool.
for sure.
Who do we have here? We've got the man of PGM. Like, you've got jokes for days.
I do.
Mr. Johnny Red, introduce yourself.
My name's John Nelson. I'm a park supervisor. I'll have 35 years in January 9th. So I started here for like a temporary part-time job while I was in school. Kind of like Pat, I was studying to sell commercial real estate. And I have never left.
Never left, huh?
Nope, not yet.
So what drew you in initially?
Just a job, actually, to be honest with you. I met someone, I was dating a girl, and I met someone that her mother was dating, and he offered me a job at the Parks Department. It was only a part-time job. It was a temporary position. So I thought I could do that while I was going to college, and ended up getting on permanent with the city after about 7 or 8 months, and the rest is history. Moved my way up all the way to park maintenance supervisor, right under Pat.
Yeah. So you've weathered many storms with the city of Las Vegas. You've
Yes.
been through economic downturns, the pandemic. You've been through the housing crisis. What do you think has been like the most impactful to actually having you weather the storm with the city?
For me, the biggest impact was not ever missing a paycheck throughout all of that.
Mm.
The city provided stability, and actually just a way forward. Like even through the pandemic, it was nice to be able to come to work every day, being deemed essential. So it was nice to be able to get out of the house. My wife wasn't that fortunate; she had to work from home, so it took a toll on her mentally to not be around her coworkers and not be able to see other faces besides us all the time. And it kind of kept me sane for that couple of years that we were on lockdown.
Hmm. I think sometimes the misconception with Parks and Rec is that we're all like all the fun people and that we get to do all the fun things, but nobody realizes that, yes, the rec center people, we do bring the fun, but we have so many parks professionals that you guys are in triple digit weather or below freezing weather. And you don't just take care of the parks, you do pretty much all of our buildings. You are such an integral part in like the conservation efforts and the types of plants that come into the valley and the pollination and everything else that goes into it, that some people, it's like the hidden gem for us.
Well, it's interesting because when I first started, we were Parks and Leisure Services, and we were all, a very cohesive unit. And then over the years, we kind of split off and did our separate things for a bit, even though we work hand in hand on a regular. So it's nice that we've come back together because it's a natural fit for everyone to all be in the same department, since we do assist and do a lot of joint activities together. So it's fun supporting the rec people.
Yeah.
The
So Jazz,
Reckies.
The
the
Reckies.
rookies,
The Reckies.
the Reckies. And then we have Jasmine. So
Mhm.
Jasmine came to us from pretty much like the STEM STEAM world. Like she's always done all the things that you find here. And we found her because she got to educate myself and the rest of the team when we were still under construction. And then it was great to see her like actually join us. So she's coming up on her first year with the city.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
It's, in about a month, she will have
Yeah.
hit a year with us.
Yeah.
So, what do you think has been your most memorable moment from the last year?
Ooh. um, I think maybe like grand opening day. That was pretty fun. We had a lot of people here. And it was nice to see like everything that we had kind of put work into just kind of be like actualized with the whole community and like everyone who helped put it together. So that was pretty cool. I do have a question though. So since we're a tech center, how is tech being like integrated or not integrated into the parks system?
Well, that's a good question. It's changing technologies, right, all the time. I mean, there's kind of the tried and true, right? I mean, we know what works out there, but the industry's always changing. Whether it's different varieties and of grass seed, for instance. There's you look at there's a lot of university programs that are constantly developing new cultivars of plants and seeds and things like that and we experiment every once in a while with new products, whether it's something with our fertilization program, or I mean, Johnny can speak probably more to that, like with what we're doing with Florentine products. I'm not trying to put a plug out there, but they have a ton of different products as far as helping us with our sports fields. We're looking now to also for like the Civic Plaza that's being built downtown. We're looking to try to utilize all electric equipment down there. So a little less disruptive for the folks that are in City Hall and going to be in those new offices, So it's a lot quieter, a lot more efficient, obviously, much greener,
Hmm.
you know. But even looking on the horizons out there, they're starting to develop, robotic mowers. One of the things that our citywide sports unit was looking at recently is a robotic field striper, a painter,
Oh, cool.
like to go out and paint all the lines for the soccer fields. You just set it up and you set the dimensions on what you want the field to be, and it just goes out and does it.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to be there to watch. But some of the things right now, um, to get a really high end commercial robotic mower that would be able to really perform like what we need in parks, it's just cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think the big one was, and when I say big, it's not very big on the scale of what we use, but it's about $35,000. I mean, it's not cheap, and that's something that maybe 5 or 10 years from now,
Yeah.
might be more commonplace, um, to where we can utilize our resources more efficiently, and instead of having a guy that has to sit on a mower for 8 hours a day, we can be doing all the really like fine tuning.
Hmm.
Our staff can be out there instead of just sitting there all day long. We can really look at the minutia, and
Yeah.
the attention to detail stuff.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I mean, there's tech out there. I just don't know that it's readily available.
Yeah.
I mean, it's available, but again, like what are the costs?
Yeah. I
Right now.
think definitely like the cost is a huge barrier, and then also just that everything is so new, people don't know.
Yeah.
Like they don't know what they don't know yet. So,
There are some smart park initiatives going on. They're starting to put Wi-Fi in some of the parks. We're starting to put surveillance cameras up in some of the problem areas. So that's another way they're using technology. We use the drone sometimes to, film our soccer fields to try to see stressed out spots and things like that. And so you're right. Technology is coming into our industry, even though it's a very like manual industry.
yeah.
It's infiltrating it because there's eventually going to be sensors in the trash cans to tell you which ones are full and which ones need to be emptied and which ones don't. And there's some technology out there that's supposed to sanitize the restroom automatically after you leave and things like that. So uh, the city's getting ready for it because I see they're starting to bring the infrastructure in for the internet and things like that.
Yeah, I think somewhere in Colorado has a self-cleaning bathroom,
Mhm.
Ooh.
park bathroom that, it's if I remember correctly, it was in the news, and it's like the gates will lock automatically, and I don't know the
Like
details of how.
desanitize, something like
Yeah,
that.
like the
Surfaces.
Wow.
whole thing,
Probably the
just like.
chemical comes through,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then when it's dry or
I mean, again, very pricey, but it's more of a showcase item at this point, for an agency to have something like that, to try to put something like that into, each and every park. Who knows what that would cost. I mean, it would be exorbitant, right?
Yeah.
But that's the future of where we're heading, and even looking, you guys are, here at Becker Tech, obviously, this is a great facility, and to be able to, share all of this stuff with definitely kids,
Hmm.
to get exposed to this, that they wouldn't be able to be exposed somewhere else. So probably a little more in the forefront, certainly for you guys and from the rec side to be able to do these types of things. But, even from a maintenance standpoint, it's coming, so it's really interesting. A lot of the technology out there for sure.
And right now we're in negotiation. Well, we're not negotiations. We're buying a software and about to implement a software that is supposed to help us do our daily routines and our tasks, like work order system, and keep things more organized. We're using technology in that way, right? And then GPSing some of the vehicles so we can keep track of where people are and what they're doing, and they're not, speeding and doing different things out in the public, making things dangerous. So even though you wouldn't think parks use a lot of technology, we're starting to use a lot of technology,
and
and
you
we're
guys use like all the irrigation systems to track like the gallons used, and
absolutely.
some of them are automated, right?
Everything is watered by Maxicom right now, so it's all managed by two water techs, and they program it all from a central location at their computer.
How many parks would you roughly say are watered like daily?
I mean, we've got 86 parks, and when you factor in looking at even medians and things that we maintain, we're not doing active maintenance. It's stuff that's contracted out. But I mean, what do we got? About 1,800 acres, give or take, that are being, kind of under the purview of our division and our department.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to manage. I think at this point we've probably got most, if not all, of our parks on the MaxiCom system. It really, we're not even using all the technology available there. It's the MaxiCom system has been around, what, 20 years, John?
20 plus, yeah, for sure.
And the essence of that is that it's supposed to be weather based and really program that. We don't have any weather stations that we're pulling data from. We had 2. They're really difficult to maintain because of vandalism and whatnot. So we're really just programming irrigation based on looking at weather data. Now, with the internet and everything the way it is now versus 20 years ago, you can go on there and you can look at weather data for neighborhoods even. And our water techs then will program that based on what's called ET. It's evapotranspiration it's just the rate at which you need to apply water for a particular plant type, right? So it's looking at all of this weather data, and it comes up with a figure and says you need to apply 0.3 inches of water to this turf grass, every day. That's the essence of how we're programming now. But the new technology that's coming out, they're developing new platform where it's all going to be web-based. So we won't have to have a physical weather station. They'll be able to pull all of this data from a neighborhood where a park is and plug that into their system, and it'll make those adjustments on the daily. So great conservation effort, but, also very important is that we're keeping things healthy and vibrant and alive out in our parks, without water waste. So it's amazing when you look at just the different technology and how it's evolving, and it's just evolving so much more rapidly. The more technology we get, the quicker we can advance.
Yeah, there's actually a feature that it knows when something's broken, and it can shut off the system. The MaxiCom knows there's too many gallons running, and it can just shut off the master valve. So they're using that technology to conserve water. Well, there's a lot of things going on with the technology in the Parks Department, but that's one of the big ones is Maxi, because that's a big money and water saver, and that's what the drive is for the whole community, right? Is to try to save water right now.
Yeah, and it seems like the levels at Lake Mead are on the rise. I think I saw that. So definitely our conservation efforts are working. Because Southern Nevada consumes the most water
Yeah.
in the state of Nevada.
Thank God for all the snow up in the Midwest, because that's all coming our way
Team effort.
too.
Thank you to our friends up north.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just reading a story about that, talking about, that snowpack and last year was phenomenal, but we can't count on that every year. They said they have not had back-to-back higher than average snowpack seasons for like 20 years, 10 or 20 years, so we can't rely on that. We have to stay vigilant. Yeah, the lake levels are going up now, but we'll likely be back in the same boat next year. And if not, then probably the year after. So we have to continue doing our part, certainly as leaders in the community, as a city, to really encourage, homeowners and residents and to do the same,
Okay.
Yeah, and in that same vein, we are converting some of our dog parks to Bermuda grass, which doesn't have to be watered over the winter, although we are thinking of overseeding some of them just as an experiment to keep the conditions a little better than have in the past. And we actually stopped overseeding some of our baseball fields and softball fields.
Can you guys explain what overseeding is and why we do it?
So basically, for Bermuda fields, Bermuda grass is a warm season grass. So any of the parks or even residences you see where the grass turns yellow in the winter, that's just dormant. And we field calls every winter. Oh, the park is dead. No, it's just Bermuda. Um, so we don't typically overseed everything. So overseeding is coming in the fall with ryegrass, sometimes a Kentucky bluegrass blend with ryegrass. That's a cool season grass. So we'll come in and we'll seed that, so we'll have green grass through the winter. Um, Typically, where we're overseeding is our soccer fields. The reason being is that they're in high use all through September, all the way through spring, all the way through May. So the reason with that, I mean, it looks great, it's beautiful, but more importantly, it's really to protect the playing surface. So in the wintertime, when that Bermuda is not actively growing, it's sitting under there dormant. Um, it's not protected by anything. You got kids out there running around making cuts with cleats, and it's tearing it all up. The ryegrass and Bermuda grass really is a symbiotic relationship, right? So the ryegrass is actively growing, so when it gets worn down, it's going to grow back. If you're wearing down dormant Bermuda in the wintertime, it's not coming back, and you might end up all the way down to the dirt. And then we're doing big projects in the summer to lay new sod, replant Bermuda. But in the same vein, that layer of Bermuda underneath is helping with ryegrass, which is much more tender, to maintain its root system. So they work together to protect each other. And then, as just a secondary benefit, it looks fabulous. When you see, a beautiful green field, everybody loves coming. I mean, Betty Wilson is certainly our gem. Host a ton of tournaments, international players, even international teams are coming out for Mayor's Cup every year. We're really proud of that facility, but we have a number of other fields as well that we're doing the same thing. Historically, we had overseeded our baseball and softball fields. And about 8 years ago, like John mentioned, we stopped overseeding baseball fields. Really, the concept at the time was a lot of our users, a lot of our baseball teams, they wanted green fields on their opening day in the spring, which was normally the beginning, usually about the first week of April. So we're taking all this time and energy and money and effort and resources to grow ryegrass when they really weren't playing on it. It's not as aggressive as a sport. So even if there's dormant Bermuda, it's not like soccer or football. It's really, really aggressive on the turf. So we looked at that and we said, this probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, we can get Bermuda grass starting to green up by early April. That's doable. It's weather, it's contingent upon the weather, of course. I mean, if we have a really cold spring, but there's things we can do to really push that too. We can apply humic acid and start kind of heating up the soil. We can go out and put pigments on the turf, and not so much just to make it look green, but it absorbs heat and it starts getting the soil temperatures to rise, and it'll start pulling that Bermuda out of dormancy. So we can get the fields green for them for their opening days without going out there and putting all this effort, money, and resources into overseeding, where it's like, why are we doing this? So we stopped doing that on our baseball and softball fields about 8 years ago, and we estimate we've saved about 12 million gallons of water over the last 8 years just by not overseeding for the winter.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's, 1.5 million gallons per year. It's, when you look at the grand scheme of things for, the size of the lake and everything, it seems like a drop in the bucket, but that's a lot of water.
That is a lot of water. That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a cost savings to the city too.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think when we first proposed that, we looked at that, and I think we were saving right out of the gate about $100,000. Right out of the gate. I mean, when you factor in seed costs, and then I'm trying to remember if we calculated in all of our labor savings, because we're not having to mow dormant Bermuda versus we're still mowing once a week, and those resources can be reallocated to doing other things that are important in the parks too in the wintertime. So
So what if we're looking at just like one field, how many employees or team members usually cover like a Betty Wilson, right? Like how does that
Oh,
process go?
Betty Wilson is substantial because there's 10 fields there. So, but there's a crew of 5 that maintain the area. It's not just Betty Wilson. They have some outlying parks as well. Um, but
buddy, here at Becker Tech, same crew.
same crew.
Same
Yeah,
crew.
same
They
crew that
keep us looking
takes care
beautiful.
of your place here. But yeah, there's pretty much someone on that field, at least one person all day, every day. Whether we're aerifying, fertilizing, mowing, just to mow it is 2 days a week easy. And then once you start doing any of the other maintenance, trying to reduce compaction or fertilizing or doing any of the other things so that'll add to that. So it's a busy place. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's funny because people think no one uses it, but after hours it's bustling all the time. There's always games there, and at KZ is another place where we have the 4 overseeded soccer fields, and again, it's a small team takes care of those 10 acres, and it takes a lot of work to keep them up, but the positive side is we just had like CONCACAF Mexican national team wanted to rent that field out for a while while they trained here in America for their tournament. And then once they got on board, other folks saw that field and now there's demand for other teams to come. So we actually have some of the nicest fields in the valley as far as sports turf goes. And we pride ourselves in that because other people might have us in other areas, but right now we seem to be winning on that one.
So your crews, I will say, so back in 2020 when everything shut down, those of us who were inside buildings were used to fill your staffing gaps. And we got to work alongside with your crews. I remember pulling weeds right next to you,
Yep.
filling bags, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was really impactful seeing that as we started to get closer to the triple digit weather, our teams were like, oh my gosh, it is incredibly hot out here. How do you guys stay out here year round, like without being able to like shield yourself from the heat or like turn off anywhere? And the weight of like the trash bags and all the weeds that have to get pulled and stuff like that. It was really impactful to see how much your teams do.
We're definitely heat conscious in our department, like weather conscious for that matter. But heat's for sure. We provide a lot of PPE for the folks that work for us. We give them Gatorades so they keep their electrolytes good, and hats and sunblock. And you got to catch the shade every now and again. You got to get in the truck and cool off. Sometimes you have to be conscious to do the hard work in the morning and try to save the evening for the easier things. And so there's a lot of little tricks in the trade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a brutal, July, as we all know. I mean, we got it really handed to us. We had a really long spring, but we encourage our guys, take water breaks, make sure, like John says, work smarter, right? Do knock out the hard work in the morning when you can, and try to plan your day around where's that shade going to be this afternoon, that you can maybe try to work around that, but it's tough and it can be dangerous. You see, we've had such a horrible heat wave throughout the entire Southwest this year, and it's a little scary. You got to be aware of how you're feeling. Pay attention to what your body's telling you. John and I both started out doing the same thing, so we understand it's not easy, and you have to pay attention. Your body tells you, hey, cool off, get a drink. If you're waiting until you're thirsty, that's a little too late. Stay hydrated throughout the day. But you're right though. It's not easy, and the winter is tough. But I say, gosh, I go out there now, and I'm like, how did I used to do this? I give a lot of props to our guys that are out there for 10 hours. It's not easy. I would definitely have to reacclimate.
So I have a question about your teams in particular, and this is for both of you. whichever one of you wants to go first. But obviously, you guys have been doing this a very long time. Is there a team member that sticks out for either going above and beyond or just made a really good impression, improved a lot over the years? It doesn't have to be someone current. You don't even have to share their name. But
For me, Adam Ozuna. He's my weekend crew leader. I work, very closely with him. Uh, I directly supervise him, and um, coming up, he had his struggles with a reputation that he was a certain kind of way, and we've worked together over the years to get him where he wanted to be, which is to be in the lead position. And now that he's there, he's really surprised me, and he's doing a great job. His weekend reports are phenomenal. They're very accurate. They're very detailed, very informative. He communicates well, and he's out there training his team. Any chance he gets with some downtime, he'll get them together and teach them a new piece of equipment or show them a technique that he knows that others may not. And to me, he's been my shining star, at least recently.
Well, and Adam too, John mentioned, grabbing the guys and teaching them things and training them on stuff. The vast majority of our weekend staff, they're our least senior employees, right? Because we do our shift bid every year, and most people
seniority.
want to be off on the weekends. We have a small handful that elect that schedule works better for them, but that's like critical, right, for what we're doing. He's taking these guys that are new, and he's showing them things, or teaching them something that maybe they wouldn't be exposed to on the weekdays, when it's just you got to hit the ground running. We may not always have time to do all those things. So in the middle of summer when it's super hot, the parks aren't necessarily that busy, and he's able to carve out a little bit of time. But yeah, back to your question though, he mentions Adam. I don't think it's one person in particular so much as that I'm impressed with a lot of our new folks that have been coming on board in the last few years, that we're getting people that are not necessarily experienced in the landscape industry. Some have a little bit of experience, but we've had folks that come on board, and we've hired a lot through our hourly program that have had zero experience, and they come in and they're just driven, and they're just yearning to learn, and they're sponges. And we've had folks come in and they set their sights. There's been a couple of guys that said, this is what I want to do. I want to work in irrigation. That's what I want to do. And they just ask a ton of questions. And years ago there was a guy, and he actually resigned to move back east. And at the time I was working on Fridays, and he was one of our weekend guys. I couldn't get out of the office on Friday because he's just, oh, can you show me this? Can you, let me, what else can I read? He sees what he wants, and he went and he got it, and he promoted up really quick. And it just goes to show, if there's something that you want, and you set your goals, and you see, the end game, when you apply yourself, you have to put it in yourself. You have to make that decision. Only you can make that decision, and the effort that I'm seeing from some of these young folks that are coming on board with us has been phenomenal. They set their goals, they see what they want. They might not get it the first time, but they don't stop. They don't stop. So I've been really impressed with a lot of the new folks that have come on board with us in the last several years. Definitely impressive.
You guys are definitely a fun bunch. Like the parks guys, when we weren't open yet, like your crews were taking trash because we didn't have trash service. We didn't have Republic
Yeah.
services out here. So they were coming in every day. And then, when they come in, I'm like, hey, can you help me move this? Or, because they're always like so willing to help. Adam is one I've had so many interactions with, especially when we have events out here in the park. He ran over because one day we didn't realize that the sprinklers were on a timer. and our event was starting in like 10 minutes and the sprinklers are going, and he like rushes right over, like never ever hesitate to like say, yes, I'll be right there, or we'll take care of that, or do you guys need extra bags? Do you need this? Do you need that? So, and they're always like so friendly and easy to work with. I know I had experiences too with, we sent a whole bunch of guys through the CPSI certification, and the amount of material that they are responsible for knowing. For those of you not in the Parks and Rec industry, it is all the playgrounds that get inspected for safety. Most of our parks professionals are actually the ones that hold those certifications and take care of that. And it's a grueling, like week-long course. They have to measure and calculate, and there is a lot of like math and science involved in making sure that our playgrounds are safe.
Mm-hmm.
And our, our teams are the ones that have to maintain those certifications.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of folks probably from a layman's perspective don't think about those things, right? Thinking about in a playground, your fall zones, where someone can fall off a playground, and the impact attenuation, the making sure that playground rubber or artificial turf, or, what used to be always sand, right? We're starting to get away from using sand in our fall zones, but understanding, from a certain height on a piece of equipment, how far someone can fall back, and having the right distance, and looking at pinch points, and, trapping potential for trapping, or, all of the playgrounds are designed, thinking about the space, that making sure a child can't put their head through something and get caught. There is a lot with that. And things that might be sharp or protruding bolts. I mean, there's a ton of stuff, and I'm not even a CPSI, but and for, I don't know if you mentioned certified playground safety inspector. So, but our trades guys are the ones that are doing those inspections and making sure that they're safe for the community. So, it's vital, that we're keeping our parks safe too.
Yeah. There's a lot of certifications. Do you like, can you just give us like a brief rundown of some of the certifications that you know of? I know we have so many different branches within our parks teams, but
So our water techs are certified landscape irrigation auditors, CLIA. There is a certification out there for certified irrigation technician. There's certified arborists. What else,
There's
Johnny?
the MaxiCom certification just to run that software. There's CDLs that guys need to have. They have to be aware of all. There's a certified applicators. That's for people that are spraying pesticides and herbicides.
so going back to what you just mentioned about arborists. So we live in the desert, right? So what can you tell us about the importance of having a certified arborist in the desert?
Well, I mean, we have an urban forester,
Mhm.
Brad Dosler, and urban forestry technician, which is Tyler Palmberg. And then, of course, Steve Glimp, who's our division manager, is board certified master arborist. So we've got, and then there's a handful of other guys that hold just, are certified arborist designation as well. The trees are a huge initiative right now for the city of Las Vegas, but Southern Nevada in general, because of the heat and the heat island effects, and looking at, the shade canopies that a mature tree can provide, is critical, and there's a lot of areas of town, particularly on the east side, that there's not nearly enough urban shade canopy, so ensuring long-term health of the trees is really important. And those guys, top down, are critical for our organization, being able to ensure that we're planting the right species that are going to survive out here, that are going to not only survive but thrive, and making sure that they can reach maturity and provide those benefits that we need in this desert environment. It's tough, so those guys do a really critical job in really identifying, what works in our parks, and and even identifying things that, okay, if we're planting something next to a sports field, that it's not putting down a bunch of litter, or it's not gonna, you don't want a pine tree out there that's dropping pine cones onto a soccer field that somebody could, roll an ankle on. Um, so yeah, I mean that's really crucial for everything that we're doing out here. So kudos to those guys with that level of knowledge, because they're far beyond what my capabilities are, for sure. So
So when you talk about the trees, I last year when we were at NRPA, there was a lot of education around tree equity scores. And so what I learned was that urban neighborhoods that are generally underserved have lower tree equity scores, meaning they have a less dense population of trees in those
mhm.
neighborhoods. So there's a big push in the city of Las Vegas as part of the 2050 master plan has a commitment to plant, I think it was 50,000 trees.
60,000, yeah.
60,000 trees. And that not only helps with all those things that you talked about, but it improves our tree equity score, which means that those that live in the more underserved communities have cleaner air. They also they provide shade, so it shields them from the heat.
Hmm.
There's a lot of public health benefits to improving our tree equity scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely want to plant more trees since they're paving over everything and putting concrete on top of everything that just holds heat in, right? So we're trying to do our part to try to alleviate some of that through planting trees. And Pat's right about the urban forester brought, I don't know how much value to our department just by planting the right species of trees.
Mhm.
Like Las Vegas kind of took a little bit of this and a little bit of that, depending on what worked, and we just went with it. But they never were solid, like a solid palette of plants. There was only a few that actually thrive here. But now we're planting things that make sense, that live in the heat, can take our climate, take the cold, take the heat. So
Well, and the other important component too that is diversifying our planting palette. For the longest time, I mean, we'd look at park designs, from years past, and it's the same 4 trees and the same 6 shrubs, and that's what went in every park and every
yeah,
streetscape.
they all look the same.
That's what got planted everywhere. And by diversifying the species of trees that are out there, if you get a certain pathogen or a pest that comes in and begins to attack a particular species, many are very species specific. You know, you can wipe out 50% of the trees in your urban forest because we don't have that diversity. So
Mhm.
that's brought a ton of value as well. And I can tell you unequivocally, Steve Glimp, when we get park plans, he's redlining. He's like, nope, 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 and this is exactly what needs to go here, and this is what needs to go here, and that's been awesome. I mean, and not only that, but it's more visually interesting too. When you can go from site to site, and you see a lot of different types of plants and types of trees, not just looking at the same thing. You go from one park to the next, and I'm like, did I even leave? Where this look?
It looks the same.
Looks the same. It looks the same. So it makes it certainly more interesting for the public and the users out there as well. So
Yeah, and for the average homeowner, I don't think they realize sometimes in your own home you can have 4 microclimates around your house. The south exposure is going to be one type of a tree. The one that's in the back with is going to be less sun. It's going to be a different. It might tolerate different um, conditions. So having those guys know those things, hey, which ones have aggressive roots, which ones will grow in this location or that location, or they don't like being planted in grass, they like better in dirt, and
Mhm.
things like that. So
mhm.
it's been really eye eye opening for me because I've learned a lot in the last few years of my career just based on those guys.
I feel like I learned a lot in the past 30 minutes just sitting here.
Right. There's a lot to it, right? There's more
Yeah.
science than you would ever think of. Most people think we just mow, blow, and go, and that's what we do. But there's a little more to it than that. You know what I mean? There
Yeah.
really is, and it's becoming a trade now. It's more where like an electrician or a plumber, where you kind of have to know what you're doing. You can't just wing it.
Yeah.
Back in my day, we just planted one tree, and that was it.
I was hoping you were going to bring one of your many voices out.
Well, every once in a while. We planted one tree and it was uphill both ways.
I was at the top of the hill. So, you guys, thank you for joining us today because we have Jasmine, who is at the beginning of her career. What is the last piece of advice that you would give to someone in her position or any of our newbies with the city of Las Vegas?
I have one piece of advice, Jasmine. The city or government in general isn't good at training and developing folks, right? You have to do kind of what Pat was talking about earlier in this podcast, what you got to find your place what interests you and go get it, and don't let anybody slow you down. Don't let the naysayers, don't let the negative old folks that have been here for a long time, bring bad habits into your mind. Just be you and always do you and bring a positive attitude to work every day and try to go where you want to go and you'll be successful. I promise.
Yeah. 100% what Johnny said for sure. Also, don't lose sight of, remember how you felt when you got the phone call that you were being hired.
Yes.
The excitement that came with that. And don't lose sight of what we provide to the community, and especially in parks and recreation. We live the mantra, building community to make life better, right? I mean, it's what we're providing in facilities like this and in our parks. And certainly now with, the push to take out, grass and greenscapes and, all of these things that we're providing these things and places for people to gather, and you're a part of that. So don't ever lose sight of that. It's really, really important for what we do here.
See,
Awesome.
building community to make life better.
Mhm.
Phil always jokes because he's like, you're like a walking tagline. And I'm like, no, it's really true. It's much easier to remember.
It's definitely
I love
true. And if you look at it from that perspective, you'll be better off in your career. You'll be happy to come to work rather than it's a job. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You'll feel like you're serving the community rather than it's some job that you
Just a
don't.
paycheck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's too easy to be angry and miserable. But, I mean, it is. And people have a tendency to fall into that. And I think, we all have good days and bad days, right? But as long as the good days are outweighing the bad, you're in a good spot. And, just always know what you're helping to provide for people. Don't lose sight of that because I've been blessed to have worked in parks and recreation for around about 20 years now, almost 20. Well, yeah, off and on. I've been fortunate enough to sit on boards in California for a maintenance management school, which was really enlightening and developing all those relationships with people in other agencies. Get involved, be involved in NRPS and, NRPA. For me, it was with CPRS, which is California Parks and Rec Society. I mean, you don't have to be in an agency in California to be a member there, and really just engage with your other agencies here. There's a lot of folks out there that love to help, and can provide guidance, and are excited and will help keep you energized. So
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. We love being able to share with the community all that the parks teams do. And especially now that September is upon us, you can go out and enjoy the beautiful fields courtesy of the City of Las Vegas Parks and Grounds team.
the weather's coming around where it's going to be nice outside pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for having us, Priscilla.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a pleasure. Be more than happy to come back and do it again.
Yep, Jasmine, and good luck. with
Yeah,
your
thank you.
fresh career.
The best. Yeah, 1 year in.
Yeah.
Only 32 to go, right? It's a drop in the bucket. It'll be there before you know it.
I know. It will. It'll be here before you know it.
Yep.